Do you make people feel safe? In my first job, I had a boss who was wise enough to set aside some time in almost every team meeting for us to share new ideas and suggestions for improving the business. He got some great inputs and impressive results. The first few times I contributed after joining the team, he responded with something like, "Come on, Deiric, I'm sure you can do better than that." So although it knocked the wind out of my sails a little bit, I took it as a challenge and I tried hard to do exactly that, sharing any new ideas I could conceive of, however out there they seemed. On one occasion, he described what I had proposed as harebrained. In fairness, as I recall, it was a little bit out there. Next time I went to contribute, he saw my hand and he said, "Okay, Deiric, what harebrained idea have you got for us today?" With practice, that became his mantra anytime I offered to contribute. All the while, my colleagues offered silent support of the boss, often accompanied by an awkward smile, which in retrospect I realized was likely driven by fear of getting on the wrong side of the boss, combined with relief that the boss's focus was not now on them. So over time, I became really selective in what I shared, determined only to bring up ideas I was certain would be well received. As a result, I often heard others contribute ideas I'd previously thought of, but which I held back, fearful they might not be good enough. Ultimately, I stopped contributing completely and just coasted quietly through those team sessions, making no eye contact and afraid to say anything that would draw attention to myself. In the end, I found those meetings such a source of anxiety that I left a job I loved and a company I admired to go somewhere where I hoped I'd feel more comfortable. Have you ever had anything you said dismissed or ridiculed? Have you ever been made to feel like you don't belong? Have you ever felt stupid because of somebody's reactions to your ideas or your opinions? Have you ever known the answer to a problem but felt afraid to say anything? If so, don't worry, you're not alone. Take a look at the animation behind me. These are the responses that we got from more than 800 people on a recent webinar when we asked them the same questions. These are common experiences. Now take a moment and think of 3 words for how those experiences made you feel. Have you got 3 words? Okay, hold them for later. Now again, take a look at the animation behind me. This is how those 800 people in the webinar said their similar experiences made them feel. Does this look or even feel familiar? There are so many words there, but the 3 that really spoke to me of how I felt in that first job were small, worthless, and stupid. If you're like most people, experiences like these and the feelings that came with them very likely made you feel cautious about being yourself in front of the person or the people who sparked them. So you rein back your inclination to openly contribute, share your opinion, ask questions, or stick your neck out in any way for fear that you might screw up or be judged and have to feel those feelings all over again. One of the biggest topics in business today is what's called psychological safety, which, despite the jaw-breaking name, is simply a sense of confidence one has in a team environment that speaking up and being yourself won't result in rejection, punishment, or embarrassment by other members of the group. Almost 20 years of research show that teams that are psychologically safe, where people are unafraid to speak up and be themselves, get much better outcomes in terms of productivity, engagement by members of the team, and innovation. Visionary organizations are therefore equipping their managers and their leaders with the skills to foster psychological safety in the workplace. This is a really important development, but sometimes this focus upon making the boss or the organization responsible hides the fact that the way we feel in groups is not just driven by what an organization or its managers do. Psychological safety is also driven by the individual members of a team. Everyone has a responsibility to contribute to the creation of that environment. Psychological safety is a function of the way that every member of the group shows up. You either contribute to it or you take from it. If even 2 or 3 of my colleagues had done anything to create a space that was even slightly more psychologically safe for me to make my contributions, the impact of the actions of my boss upon me might have been substantially different. It's probably easy to see, therefore, the undesirable impacts of making people feel unsafe in a work environment. Your common sense and research tells you that people will disengage and refuse to interact so that they protect themselves. Psychological safety is therefore critical in a business environment. But there are environments that are much more important than business. What if the people you care about don't feel safe enough to be themselves around you? How would you feel if you thought that the way you were showing up to those you care about was making your father, your mother, your siblings, your spouse, your partner, or your children feel small, worthless, and stupid, too afraid to be themselves around you? What if they decided to disengage, go quiet, or pull back to protect themselves from the fear of getting on the wrong side of you? Perhaps they can't change families as I change jobs, but sometimes people check out, leaving their families or relationships without actually leaving them. And I'm not sure that that's not actually worse. And would you even know? Possibly not. Most of us tend to take silence as assent, assuming that a lack of negative input or feedback on how we show up means everything's okay. And it's not always so. How many times have you feared or resented somebody in complete silence? Happily, there are some things you can do to be a net contributor to the sense of psychological safety experienced by everyone around you. And the good news is that once they become part of the way you show up, they affect all aspects of your life, business and personal. So whether you're a senior manager in charge of a large team of people, or a parent raising a small family, or something in between, here are some things you can do to make those around you feel safe to be themselves. First, don't be afraid to say you don't know. Amy Edmondson, the foremost researcher in this space, says, be a don't knower. Show it's okay not to have all the answers. Second, screw up in front of those you want to have feel safe around you. Let them see you drop the ball and own it. Demonstrate that it's okay to try something new and screw up. Then when people drop the ball, ask, what did you learn? Help them own the upside of their failures as well as the downsides. Get people involved. Ask, what do you think? And then really, obviously, listen. And involve everybody. Get everybody sharing their opinions and feedback. Let them know you don't have all the answers. I know I'm missing something. What is it? Have you any ideas? Now, there are many more things you can say and do to enhance the sense of psychological safety of those people around you. But once you get started with this and get into that mindset, you'll find that other ideas start to flow naturally. Now, bring back to mind the three words you thought of at the beginning of my talk. The three words that described how you felt when you were in a psychologically unsafe environment. Have you got them? Take a moment to really re-inhabit them. Really feel them. Now tell me, do you want to be someone who makes your children, spouse, family, valued friends, or colleagues feel that way? Or do you want to be known as a person who contributes to helping everybody you interact with feel safe enough to be themselves? Do you want to make people feel safe? It's as simple as deciding right now that this is important to you and setting an intention to show up accordingly from now on. Now, to me, that feels like an idea worth spreading.